All right. Super loud. Greetings. Welcome back to Black Bear News, where everything is connected. And we have a unique New York, unique take on things going on in the world. I think so. Anyways, greetings, y'all. Good to see you. It's Friday. We're doing what's called Friday Fix, which is slightly more interactive. And the call-in app, if you want to call in, is open all show, with some caveats, not to do want to talk about a few things today. But good to see you. Okay. Sorry about the variable sound. Don't need to open that. Okay. All right. We are live on Rockfin. Hello, Rockfenders. Hello. We got William Osama hanging out. A few people coming in. If you like what you're hearing, we're also live on Twitter, by the way. Did I mention that? We're live on Twitter. You can watch this show on Twitter at Black Bear News, the number one. And so that's happening. Are we live? Just checking and see if I'm live. If you're watching can you please follow me on Twitter? I don't know. I can't seem to. I feel like my Twitter is a lot like my YouTube, which is just, I'm just stuck at a particular number. They won't let me get past a certain number. But I don't know if that's Twitter or me or my fault, but I always make room for human error or, personal error. I'm doing something wrong, maybe. I don't know. But man, it's hot. It's hot here in LA. It was like 93, 94 yesterday. What's it supposed to be today? Let's see. It says it's 90 right now with a high of 93. And tomorrow, the same. And the next day, pretty close to the same. And that heat is seeing my own personal business as usual. My car overheated yesterday because it was so dang hot. Part of the reason. And it's just hard. And then also the show will probably be, I can't really go past 1, and I don't know, how long I have until my computer starts slowing down because it's hot. So in the realm of hot, it's hot enough. It's hot because the sun is dang hot. It feels a lot hotter. But everybody filing in. Hello. All right, let's get into some things. Doom does not sell, Andre. Absolutely. You are absolutely right. Doom does not sell. Doom is not good for the economy. It's not good for marketing. And I don't know. It's kind of why I keep this show somewhat cordoned off from the rest of my life. And I might, there are days when I think maybe I should cordon it off completely, as in just, maybe not do the show anymore just because it's, nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to think about it. And nobody cares. It's negative. It's, brings everybody down. And so, I don't know. It goes through, it goes through my head once in a while. I did think though maybe that I would I might do. I have all kinds of ideas, right? So I have new ideas every single day. Which is cool as long as your brain is working. Hopefully you get new ideas a lot. But yeah, you're and Andre, yes, how many ways can you say, it's like, yeah, I love doing this channel. I feel like I have been repeating myself for 5 years. And nothing, nothing I have to say about it is really going to stop it. It's not going to stop what's happening. And nobody wants to come to face to face with it. And so it almost feels to me, and I've felt this several times in the past after a show, feeling like bad, feeling guilty, feeling, remorse for bringing such a negative thing to people's attention. Like it almost feels, it's like constantly picking at somebody or something, about its about its negative aspects, right? So what, does that really help? Is that going to really improve anything? I don't know. Not sure. I do know that there's, several people that are in touch with the reality around this and want some kind of, commiseration or validation or, right? Like I see this is happening and nobody wants to talk about it. So maybe we all can, obviously that's what we do here. Everybody gets together who understands the situation and tries to, flesh it out without fear of being shut down, without fear of, being looked at sideways. So, so that's why I do the show. I do the show because people need an outlet for, and I think more people, as I've said multiple times, more people understand day by day. More people can see what's happening and put things together and go, huh. And it's hard to talk about. And man, it is also not fashionable. If you thought talking about climate change was difficult in the past, it is even more difficult today. Why? Because according to the people telling you the truth about things, it's all a big sham. So it's an even harder subject to contemplate, to right. And if you thought talking about you can't talk about answers, you can't talk about a possible way forward, you can't talk about ways to, you might be able to talk about ways to adapt or deal with it, but there are people that don't want you to talk about that. So it's a tough one. Schulte, what is this? There's an answer to the problem. They have a machine. A Vietnamese American who built a sequester machine. Is it going to work? Yeah, well, let me know about it. Again, it's not just about CO2. That's the problem. I think a lot of people are, missing. There's so much misinformation and misunderstanding, and I just hope that people can come to grips with it in their own way. Without being browbeaten about it. And, I do my fair share of browbeating. So Apologies for that. I can get emotional, as we all can. I can get very emotional about, what I see is wrong in the world or with people or with how we're, coming at this. And I can get very angry and very, filled with, the desire to shake my fist at the sky. What is going on? I think that's fairly human. People have emotions and they get in their feelings. That's what happens. So. Loey says 10 adults commit suicide per day in the Netherlands. 2 teenagers per week, man. It's hitting home, this perspectivelessness. Yeah, man. For real. It's not, I don't even feel good talking about this, but I've had, several people in my life commit suicide in the last 6 years. Not in my life, not like close. People I that I consider, friends, people I have known over the years, people in my social sphere. Have committed suicide, and one can only wonder what all the reasons are. They're all about they're all men. They're all about the same age, and they, for whatever reason, it's time to go. Anyways, but people. Well, it's also interesting how many people passed away, during the last 3 years during COVID. And, either due to COVID or complications or comorbidities or, or, cures for COVID. There's a lot of reasons why people have been passing away. And it's interesting to me, I don't know if it's just because of social media, if it's just all the information at our fingertips, if it's just, a lot of people can attribute, thinking that everything is unraveling because we're just in touch with, we have so much information at hand, about all the bad things, right? So, I feel like I've seen a lot of death in the last few years, a lot of people, leaving the planet. But I also feel like maybe that's kind of some kind of cosmic, everybody's making a cosmic exit, right? Because they see where things are going, things are getting bad, things are not going to be great in the next few years, or at least that's what, Jesus, right? A lot of people have these feelings. I wish people would not text me. Sorry. Suddenly getting all this interference from my phone. I wish it would stop. I don't know how to make it stop. Sorry, calling people. I apologize. All right, we'll try it over here. But yeah, some people see the writing on the wall, see where things are going, and either life situations or maybe they're maybe by their own hand just choose to it's a good time to go. I don't know. That is weird, Serenity. I don't know why RFK doesn't want to talk about climate change. I mean, he's an environmental lawyer. He's also very clear that he's clear that climate change is happening. He's, he's also clear and has made it part of his life's work to call out the corporations, various corporations, that are doing harm to the planet and doing harm to people, which I think is a noble cause. He used to talk about it, but not now. He doesn't talk about it because it's just not fashionable, or it's, let me put it this way. It's super unfashionable to talk about climate change. It is just it's so maybe we're just the stalwarts. What I was going to say a little earlier was I'm thinking about making another show on Black Bear News. And I know I've tried all different things like this before, but considering doing like a show where we just talk about like politics and just regular normie stuff, right? We can put the climate change, in its own little channel, and people can come here and talk about climate change, and we can all commiserate over that. But maybe I can do another channel where I just leave climate change out of the conversation, completely. We can talk about other things. Who knows? I don't know. It's weird though. I mean, it is incredibly unfashionable to talk about climate change. And I don't know. Hold on. We have Phantomas calling in. Give me 1 sec. And that's because most of this for the are because of misinformation and hold on 1 second, Phantomas. Misinformation and a lack of the people in charge, misinformation from several directions. Okay, what's up, Phantomas? How you doing?
Well, just to piggyback what you just said, I think my prediction is talking about climate change is going to start to get even more real as the years start to progress. We were just late to the party kind of thing.
Sure.
And I think, the clip that I showed you where that sphere with the emoji sphere in Las Vegas.
Uh-huh.
For people who don't know, there's a sphere in Las Vegas, an entertainment sphere that they built with a lot of digital LCD screens built into it, with a lot of wattage for lights,
right,
and the use of energy that they use for it. But my main point is that all of this is going to come to a head because all of our resources are going to continue to dwindle. There's no like a re-up on the resources.
Right. Exactly. And right now, the common, what seems to be more and more the common thought around the depletion of resources is that it's all contrived. That they are causing, these problems that create scarcity, right? The Suez Canal being backed up, they're saying that, this is just something that's made up, that they're doing this on purpose, or the lack of food, or the lack of, right now, the popular thought around this in a lot of circles is that this is all, that it's all a show. Now, granted, I don't for 1 second, I don't think that it's beneath or out of the realm of possibility that people in charge can do, crappy, nefarious things to make people uncomfortable. Like, that's totally in their playbook. And maybe that's part of what's going on, but I just don't think that's the whole thing about what's going on. There are several things going on. It's not either or, it's and. This and that.
Yeah, that's true, and that's part of.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's part of the reason why so many people who just.
You're good.
Am I cutting out?
No, you're good. You cut out for a second, but you're good. You're good.
Okay. Well, I think that's part of the reason why, it's so difficult to have conversations, because it just becomes like this singular reason.
Yeah,
a singular reason of fault of something. Like, are you saying it's because of this? No, everything works in tandem. That's what's happening.
exactly. And so I don't, and it's frustrating because the climate change thing is such a. Hold on one second. I'm seeing if I can find this article. Um, uh, uh, this is from Zero Hedge, which is a very right leaning publication, is talking about, they published something from the Epoch Times about the Florida citrus industry being in bad shape, mainly because of disease and weather extremes. So damage from the 2022 hurricane season combined with the impact of citrus greening disease is ravaging the Sunshine State's orange crop. Now, this isn't a conspiracy, right? These are things that are, right, they released the citrus greening disease so that they could control the quality and the bounty of citrus. No. I mean, maybe, but probably not. And it's the black and white thinking that is really like weird to me. Right? This is Zero Hedge. Right-leaning people go to this source of information all the time, and they're just basically reporting like there's a citrus shortage, and a big one, 56% drop in citrus availability
Wow.
from Florida. 56. That is a fuck ton. Sorry for my language.
Well, I mean, that's the reason why we outsource so much fruit from everywhere.
Right.
We outsource all our nuts. We outsource everything because there's no way we can meet the demand without it. And we're taking from these countries at such a level that probably they're suffering of the level that we're taking from them. I don't know, but it's just like a logical guess what's happening.
Yeah. Okay. So you have the citrus shortage. You have to import, citrus from other places. You have to do it by ship. These ships are stuck in Suez Canal or wherever, maybe they're having a difficult time. I think it was only a year ago or maybe 2 years ago, there was a big port backup, right? There was a supply chain backup. So you have not either or, you have and, right? You have a citrus shortage. You have to get citrus from somewhere else. Who knows if they're having problems growing their fruit because of climate change, because of dramatic weather events, etc. Then you have the supply chain issues, which I don't know. Maybe they're contrived, maybe they're made to happen, or maybe they just are because of certain things. You have a supply chain is a chain, right? You have a chain of events, right? You have several things happening at once that can cause things not to work, right? And that's so it could be structural or organizational problems. It doesn't have to be something that's a conspiracy all the freaking time, or and it might be that maybe they're trying to make things worse, make people uncomfortable, but that you have and this other problem is happening too, and climate change is happening and making it more difficult to grow food. So you just have several things happening at once, and it's just unfortunate that we as just humans just act like that. Humans have to find a scapegoat, and they have to say, no, they're making it happen, and everything is made to happen, and it can't possibly be. I was listening to one of my favorite alternative journalists say poo-poo the idea that it's making diseases worse, climate change, and it's like, well, okay, sure, maybe they could be doing gain of function work. Maybe they could be making diseases worse by tinkering. And of course, I totally believe that's happening. And why wouldn't a warming planet change how viruses? I mean, there was another article I just saw about, I'll pull that up too, about fungi, different that's a scientifically plausible thing that can happen. Is that in a warming world, fungi could react in a different way to humans, and humans can actually be susceptible to getting hit with fungus that wouldn't normally affect them, but now it's warmer. The fungi are functioning differently. Your body's functioning differently. How is that a difficult thing to comprehend? That is not a wild. That is not a conspiracy. That's actually totally scientifically plausible. And I think if you just sat back and thought about it, you go, oh, sure, yeah, that could happen, right? But again, this journalist is just poo-pooing, has to mock the idea that climate change is making diseases worse, only because he wants to support, only the idea that they are making diseases worse, and that's if only they would. It's the geoengineering thing. If only they would stop doing this, everything would be fine. If only they would stop geoengineering, everything would be fine. Who knows? Sure. If they would stop tinkering around and messing around, I'm sure that would alleviate some things, but not everything, because it's not either or. You're talking about having a nuanced position, but you can't actually think about nuanced things in your brain. Which one, can you try a little harder? Anyways,
I'll end it on this. And you just brought up nuanced, which was what it's like ESP right now, which is what I was going to bring up, was the fact that this is the sole reason why we can't have nuanced conversations on a plethora of issues.
Yeah.
This is the reason what you were just describing right now.
Yeah. And it's also why, climate change is such an unpopular subject right now, is because people now are just, of course, people are emotional, people are afraid, people are worried about the future, people are worried about all kinds of things, the economy, what's really going on in the world. They feel scared, and these are all welcome to life, welcome to maybe we should just welcome in, look, you're having a hard time dealing with what's going on in the world, and you want to find a scapegoat, you want to find a reason to be mad, you want to find something to be mad at, and you want to find a simplistic answer. And it's just not going to be simple. Unfortunately, it's just not going to be simple.
This is true.
Yeah, I appreciate your comments, man.
All right, I'll talk to you later, man. Peace.
Right, Rich Diana, very good point. Air pollution is said to kill 10 million people yearly around the planet. That's bound to grow. So air pollution does actually kill people, right? It actually does. Breathing in particulates and breathing in poisons, right? Because what is this pollution? What is this? The thing that comes out of smokestacks and tailpipes is poison. Literally poison. It's not a molecule of carbon dioxide that's supposedly heating the earth, right? That's not what it is. If it was just carbon dioxide coming out of cars, well, they would be really great because they'd be like plants, right? Plants give us carbon dioxide, or give us oxygen. Sorry, they'd be like humans. Plants give us oxygen. They breathe in our carbon dioxide. There's an exchange, right? What they breathe out as carbon dioxide or oxygen is not poison. It's what we need. If there was too much oxygen, it might be poisonous. It might actually make us feel some kind of way. Right? We breathe out the carbon dioxide. We push out carbon dioxide. There's carbon dioxide sources from all over the planet, from natural, right, variability, right? So, there are carbon sources and there are carbon sinks, right? There are, carbon in, carbon out. Yes, we all know this. That's the natural cycle of life. If cars only pushed out carbon dioxide, that plants could absorb and breathe out oxygen, if it were only plant food, well, then it wouldn't be so bad. But that's not what cars push out. Because this, because if you sat on all fours behind a tailpipe and breathed in for a little while, you would be super dead. You'd be super dead, right? If you just, you don't want that in your body. You don't want that, What they push out is literally poison. So, if you can't just fathom the equation on that level of like, hey, we are poisoning the planet. We are literally pushing out poison from these tailpipes and smokestacks. And this is going to eventually have a detrimental effect based on the scale at which we push out this poison. Like, if you can't just come to grips with that on a very basic level, like, no, that can't possibly be happening. What? I mean, I don't understand. It is all just, political, ideological football to the detriment of people's understanding of what is really going on. And I find it unfortunate. And, not at all. We could be so much more intelligent. We could be operating on a higher level. We could be operating on, as more thoughtful beings, right? Again, Sultan Bev, of course, right? It's not just the exhaust pipes, it's the rubber particulates. I mean, it is literally everything, right? It's the pesticide runoff from agriculture. It's the, it's the pesticides we put on the plants. It's all the chemicals that we use daily in our daily lives that, after years of study, we've realized that these things are incredibly dangerous and we should never have them in our food or in our beauty products or, right? Like, well, we should have never used this because we didn't even know it was so bad. Well, why do you use it why do we go forward with technology as if like, here we go, guys, it's a new thing. It's great. Everybody do this thing. Like, why aren't we going, no, whatever it might be, 5G or cell phones or anything. Why aren't we saying like, well, we have this really cool invention. However, we know from past experience, given the fact that every single other thing that we've ever made with technology has literally proven to be carcinogenic and destructive to, the web of life, right? Like, wouldn't we stop and go, yeah, we're going to have to do like 20, 30 years of like safety trials on this before we even let it loose on the public? No, we don't do that. Anyways, we don't do that. And it's unfortunate. And we just are going to go down being, fairly confused, emotional creatures. Oh, what's going on? I feel really bad. The end. I mean, that's how we're going to go out. And, we have the capacity. We have the capacity to be so much more. Osama, have a good one, man. Thanks for your really great message on PayPal yesterday. I appreciate you, man. Here, let's see. Where are we at? I'm trying to look for this fungus story. I know it's somewhere. Maybe not. But it's something I've covered in the last 5 or 6 years of doing the show. I'm sure I've covered the idea that fungus is among us. I can't help it. I can't help it. We're going to try and cover some stories today. All right. I promise. We know that methane gas can bubble out from shallow coastal seabeds in the Baltic Sea, but I've never seen such an intense bubble release before, and definitely not from such a deep area. So this is the clathrate cannon going off. I don't know, maybe. Extensive methane gas leakage from the deepest seabed of the Baltic Sea discovered. Oh no. During a research expedition led by Linnaeus University and Stockholm University to the deepest parts of the Baltic Sea and the Landsort Deep, researchers recently discovered an area with extensive emissions of the powerful greenhouse gas methane from the bottom sediments. The area where the methane leak was discovered is located in the Landsort Deep, about 30 kilometers southeast of the coastal town of Nynäshamn. Christian Strawn, associate professor of marine geophysics at the Stockholm University, is surprised by the discovery. We know that methane gas can bubble out from shallow coastal seabeds in the Baltic, but I've never seen such an intense bubble release before. Definitely not from such a deep area. The research project aims to expand knowledge about methane and its sources and sinks in the oxygen-free environments in the deeper parts of the Baltic Sea. The project is led by Marcello Ketzer, professor of environmental science at Linnaeus University. Knowledge about the factors that control how much methane is produced in these deeper areas and where the methane goes is limited. How does the system react to, for example, eutrophication or a warmer climate? I know from one of my previous projects that the methane levels in the sediments in this area are higher than elsewhere in Baltic Sea. I never expected methane to bubble out into the sea in this way. The researchers determined the area's extent to be 20 square kilometers, about 4,000 football pitches, and that's equivalent. And it lies at a depth of around 400 meters. All right. And you know that methane breaks it down into CO2. So it doesn't just go away. It doesn't just break down and disappear. It breaks down into what? CO2. That's not good. At the depths we are working with here, you can expect the methane bubbles to reach, at most, perhaps 150 to 200 meters from the seabed. The methane in the bubbles dissolves in the ocean, and therefore they usually gradually decrease in size as they rise towards the sea surface. To the researchers' great surprise, they could see some bubbles rising to 370 meters from the ocean floor. Bubbles from deep sea sediments can rise significantly higher due to a coating of frozen methane that forms around the bubble. Anyways, this is not good news. And quickly from Poppy sent me this about Spain's glaciers. This is a canary in the coin. Scientists warn Spain's glaciers will vanish in years. They're not making that up because they're really not there anymore. Right? Same with the Swiss Alps, etc. Places where there were glaciers before, they're not there anymore. They're receding. You can insist that that's just natural variability and glaciers come and glaciers go, but, you know, if somebody came up with the idea maybe years and years ago, they're like, hey, if we heat the planet up by burning stuff, if we heat the planet up by burning stuff, we could actually heat the planet up, and then the heating of the planet would actually melt the ice. And then now here it is, the ice is melting, and you go, no, that's just natural. I insist that's just natural. Okay. I do want to play this. Fantomas already left. Fantomas, where did you go? I was going to play this thing that Fantomas sent me about what's it all about, Alfie? This is John Stossel interviewing this Judith Curry lady. Again, this is like the one lady who's out here saying that climate change is all a bunch of hooey, and they're just they're trying to hype it up, and it's not really happening. I don't know. Well, for one thing, she says some interesting things here. This may infuriate you. Kind of infuriated me, but she doesn't really. Again, I'll say this about her, and which I noticed when she was on Kim Iverson's show. She's just making the rounds now, right? She just seems to be the go-to climate scientist that says that it's not happening and it's all hype. But she says some interesting things like, well, they don't talk about whether warming of the world might be a good thing. She actually acknowledges that the world is warming. So that's an interesting thing. She also doesn't present any evidence for her case. She just pokes. So what she's doing, I just want to analyze for a second what she's doing. She's pointing at things that poke holes in the idea that climate change is a real threat. But she doesn't actually have any, what she's doing is being ultra skeptic. She's inciting like skepticism in people with a very, with somewhat convincing, in a somewhat convincing way. But she doesn't actually ever produce any data or studies. So that is a very interesting thing for me, right? Like when you listen to alternative journalists and they're presenting their case for something, and oftentimes they actually really present great cases because they are backed up with studies and data and evidence, right? They have a lot of data and evidence and studies. But she doesn't present any data or evidence. So there's a few things that flash on the screen, but like she's not presenting any evidence here in what she's saying. She's just saying how this is not. She's trying to describe how this is a concoction, but she doesn't actually present any evidence to point out that it's not happening. And she, again, also concurs with the idea that the Earth is warming anyways, but maybe it's just not so bad. But let's listen from about six minutes in. She says some interesting things here. This is long. This is 43 minutes, so
States.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
What the
All right, here we go.
IPCC is bigger. It's,
Okay, but they were emailing all the other IPCC authors all over the world. You have to understand the origins of all this. The origins go back to the 1980s, and the UN Environmental Program had this big environmental agenda, anti-capitalism. They
Okay.
hated the
So I'm just going to, they hated oil companies.
And they
Let me just stop right there. So this is, she's for one thing, she's bringing out the UN, created this whole thing about climate change and it's all fake. And because the UN created it, right? She, almost the UN is almost like a boogeyman. And that's fine. I'm fine with in some ways they're not a great organization. In some ways, the UN is a boogeyman, and so you can point to anything. She's saying, well, they created this thing in the UN. Getting a lot of interference, sorry. But she said they're anti-capitalism, and they hated the oil companies. Now, hold on 1 second. I want to dissect just those two parts for a second. So, on the right, you have a hatred of big pharma, maybe big ag, of these large corporations or entities that are wielding plying their trade and wielding their products as weapons against humanity, right? Basically. And I would agree with that. I would agree with their take on that. Right? Through either through accident or through intention. Through the use of, chemicals that aren't totally tested, for a short-term gain, but maybe a long-time harm. I would agree with that. But this is very interesting because the way she says it is like, well, they're anti-capitalism. Oh my. Because capitalism good? Okay. Okay. I'll give you that one. But also, they're anti-oil companies. Oh, big oil is good. That's literally like, wait, you're trying to say that being against a huge corporations that, for all intents and purposes are destroying the earth for profit. And people that are against big oil are the bad people. So you see, she's trying to say like, they don't like big oil. Well, so you like big oil? I'm trying to ask like a serious question here to the people on the libertarian right truther side of the spectrum. Like, okay, you hate big pharma, big ag, and the bigs. And I agree that you should but big oil is fine. The idea of that fossil fuels are bad is, really? Okay. That actually makes me think, like, I'm sorry. What kind of check are you getting for that? And if you're not getting a check, why are you doing the work for free? Why are you pimping for free? I don't understand. I want you to, if you are one of those people that's on the libertarian right side, truther side, whatever. I'm not denigrating that side at all. I'm in league with a lot of the ideas, with not a lot, some of the ideas they have. I can concur on some of the ideas presented from that side. Absolutely. But I want you to stop and sit down and think very hard about why, the idea that big oil isn't the same as any of these other evil entities that are out to destroy you for profit without thought to your safety or the harms that they might be in, right? That have you on this teat, if you will, of fossil fuels. They're okay. I want you to think, I want you to sit and think, I want you to maybe write down some reasons why that might be a lie or why that might not be real. And I want you to, I don't know, present them on your show or something, or present them to me, or send me an email, blackbearnews@gmail.com. Send me an email. Why, big tech is bad, big ag is bad, big pharma is bad, but big oil, they're just trying to give people, cheap, reliable energy. What? Are you kidding me? And that just, when I hear stuff like that, I just stop believing you, bro. I stop believing you, bro. And I don't have, when Judith Curry is like, they're anti-big oil and they're anti-capitalism, I'm just like, so you're going to give us the truth now? Because you're going to, now you're going to give us the truth because that concept is really weird or something. I don't know. And being pro-capitalism, I'm like, oh, really? Okay. Really? You sure about that? So, these giant corporations who run the world and own all of the politicians that make all the terrible decisions that affect your life, that's not the result of capitalism run amok. Capitalism is awesome. If only they would stop, if they would get out of the way of capitalism and let it go, that it would be better. If people would just get out of the way of regulating capitalism or trying to, push back on capitalism or hold the tide of capitalism just run amok, just tearing down trees and digging up big mines and pumping oil out of the ground and scraping the seabed for minerals. Like if we would only just get out of the way of capitalism or everything, I mean, the lack of understanding of like what you're actually saying is astonishing to me sometimes. People that I'm addressing. Libertarians, right people on the truther side. Like the lack of understanding of the things you are actually saying is astonishing. And it ends up just being ideological football. It ends up just being like, well, I just believe this because, and I believe these things because it's fashionable. I'm saying these things to my viewers or my people because it's fashionable. Not because it's true or real or like, doesn't make sense over here, but doesn't make sense over here. But like, we'll just ignore those idiosyncrasies. We'll just ignore that those things don't line up. Which one is it? Are you against big corporations or not? Are you against the ever encroaching maw of capitalism run amok that's destroying your lives without any regulation whatsoever, without any pushback whatsoever by any entities whatsoever? If you're against big ag and big pharma and big tech, what's is the answer to let them even do more harm by like not, because when you're saying like, oh, well, the government entities that are supposed to regulate these things are in their employ. Well, what do you suggest they do? Are you kind of like, without saying it, suggesting that maybe they should do their jobs and regulate these companies? Because that would be admitting that you actually need government to do their job. And you actually need these entities in their place doing their job in order to push back on these just the ravenous maw of capitalism gone amok. Yes, Chad Miano, the lack of consistency in their argument is what gives them away. Exactly. So, and I could do this same thing. I don't even need to play any more of this Judith Curry lady. She's not saying anything, and she's not presenting any data and evidence. So that's if you're watching this lady and you're like, oh yeah, she's not presenting any data and evidence to back up her point that like climate change isn't happening or it's not that bad. There isn't really any data and evidence. I could do this whole tirade on the left too, right? I could actually pick apart. There's a lot of people on the left, a lot of people who believe in climate change, who believe it's a thing that's actually happening, but believe all these other things, where their ideas, their beliefs don't line up, don't make sense because they're like, I'm against this, but I'm totally for this. I'm like, but those are the same thing. I'm totally against big oil, but big pharma is trying to save lives. Really? Are you sure? You want to sit down and think that one through again, Captain? Captain, oh, Captain. These people are really bad and evil, and they're just, they're lying to us all the time. They're making money hand over fist and destroying the planet. But these people over here are just, are following the science. I could do the same thing for both sides. I'm just trying to point out the inconsistencies of the ideological bubbles, and it would be cool and behoove you, as a thinking person, a feeling, thinking, emotional, a human being who's alive on the planet, who wants to, come to a greater understanding of what's happening. I'm just asking you to question why it is you just have these knee-jerk ideas and thoughts about, because somebody told you this is how you're supposed to think about these things. Somebody told you this is how you're supposed to. That somebody could be, a dude with a Rockfin channel. That somebody could be, somebody on CNN. That dude could be somebody, White House press secretary. Hillary Clinton. Mitch McConnell could be, Ron DeSantis. They're all these people telling you things. And, a really good thing is not to maybe just take everything they say as gospel and have a knee-jerk reaction to the thing that you totally believe because somebody told you to totally believe it. All right, guys, please like up the video if you like it. Big oil is bad, but support the troops. Military is good. That's such a sticky thing. That's such a weird. Support the troops. Like, you want to support people that are doing the thing that they think is the best thing they can do. But you're actually supporting when you say that, you're actually supporting like the military-industrial complex as we know it. So that's a really oh God, you want to support like human beings that are just doing their best and what they think is right, and you want to support that. But do you support the military-industrial complex, or do you support wars as righteous, or do you support, the bombing of, civilians in other countries because it's for a just cause? It starts getting Just saying. Just saying. But we got, so before I go, ways you can support the show, of course. PayPal.me/Kevin Sandbloom, Venmo at Kevin Sandbloom, Cash App at Red Llama Music, buymeacoffee.com/Black Bear News. And, you can follow me at Twitter, Black Bear News #1. I mean, what would be really great is, peace on the planet, living in harmony with the planet. That's my ultimate, wish for humanity and all other living creatures, because we're not the only ones here. It's my wish for all beings on the planet to live in, in some form of natural, harmony, that we could truly, foster and encourage life, and good living on the planet. That's what I want. I want peace, prosperity for people. That's, would be great. Just hopefully this conversation helps people get down that road just a little bit better. And so thank you for listening. I appreciate y'all. Till next time, peace.